It's JJ Zacharyson broadcasting you from the numberFire account here on Periscope. I'm gonna give you some daily baseball plays for today. Hopefully yesterday went well. Hopefully you didn't play Clayton Kershaw. And the only reason I say that is because there were other value pitchers out there yesterday. I did mention Henderson Alvarez on the show yesterday. He was a cheap option. Hopefully, if you used them on a site that gave you points for going deep in games, because he could not buy a strikeout for the life of him yesterday. But he did go deep into the game. He didn't get the win, but he was still, a reasonable pitching value. Hopefully, you avoided the Brewers stack, which a lot of DFSers were going after. Apparently, Kyle Kendrick is a stud. Apparently, he's going to win the Cy Young this year. So that was a very surprising event. And then on the other side of things, hopefully you went with the Rockies because they completely dominated yesterday, crushing the Brewers. Tonight's slate is a lot smaller. It's not opening day. It's the day after opening day, so usually that's the case. There's a clear top pitcher on the board. That top pitcher is Zach Greinke, going for LA. He's going to be going against San Diego tonight. The one thing you have to worry about is the weather. Unfortunately, that's the downside whenever you're playing MLB DFS. It's kind of the late scratch, if you will, for NBA DFSers. But Zach Greinke, every time he's out there, he could reach 10 strikeouts. But again, I'm hesitant because of the weather. I'm also hesitant to use him in tournaments. Usually, I just go with the best pitching options in tournaments. But I think tonight Zach Greinke is going to be owned so highly across the board that I'm really going to just focus playing him in cash games. It's 50-50s, head-to-heads, and some triple-ups as well. So Greinke's definitely the top option on the board, though. That's especially true because the Cubs and the Cardinals are postponed, and Jake Arrieta would have been a great number 2 option on the mound in DFS. Instead, I'm going to go with Jesse Hahn, who's pitching for the Athletics tonight against the Rangers. The Rangers were 20th in WOBA last year, so the lineup's not incredibly strong. Hahn actually had an 8.59 strikeout per 9 innings ratio last season in really limited time. So sample size is really small. The hope is that that's who he is and how he pitches. But I think, he was pitching for San Diego last year, so he had a favorable park that he was pitching in, but he's with Oakland now, so he still has a pretty favorable park. So I think Hahn is a pretty good value play at pitcher. Again, the slate tonight is not super, super nice, and the pitchers out there aren't great, unless you want to play someone like Matt Latos, who's probably one of the bigger boomer bust pitchers out there in baseball. And then lastly, I should mention that our algorithm does really like Alex Wood tonight, who last year dominated the Marlins, pitched really well against them. So I think that he's definitely an option. But I would lean towards Greinke in 50-50s and cash games, head-to-heads, and then kind of look at Hahn for those tournaments. And if you're on a 2-pitcher site like DraftKings, I'm okay with going Greinke in a tournament, but I think that you might have more success going with 2 middle-price guys, relative middle-price guys at pitcher, and kind of fading Greinke just because of the weather and because he's going to be so highly owned. From a hitter perspective, our numbers love Carlos Gonzalez tonight as a high-priced option. He's still in a good hitter's park in Milwaukee, despite the fact that it's not Coors Field. He has an absurd 390 WOBA against right-handers and a 248 ISO, and he's going to be facing Garza tonight in Milwaukee. So Carlos Gonzalez, that whole Rockies lineup and the Brewers lineup are both, they're stackable options. I know that the Brewers probably burned you yesterday, but I think that a lot of people are going to feel that way about them, so they're going to fade them tonight. And I think that's a perfect opportunity to throw them in your lineups and use those Brewers. But on the other side of things, Carlos Gonzalez and then whole Rockies lineup, who's really capable of hitting really well. Pitching's more so their problem. And then another higher price guy that a lot of people are going to use is Paul Goldschmidt. But I think an option that you could go with instead of going with Goldschmidt is save a little cap space and go with Chris Davis, who's coming back from his 25-game suspension tonight. Chris Davis can mash righties, and that's exactly what they're going to be facing tonight in Nate Carnes. I know that Carnes has bad home run numbers against, and Davis is a home run guy. I'm gonna mark it, book it right now. Chris Davis is hitting a home run tonight. If he doesn't, you can yell at me on Twitter. Some other high-priced guys you can go after is Evan Longoria, Nelson Cruz, just to throw some more values out there. From more the cheaper side, Angel Pagan, or if some people like to call him Angel Pagan, he's still hitting in Arizona tonight. He's high in the order for the Giants, and his price tag really hasn't caught up on sites. It's not going to catch up because he's going to be hitting in San Francisco, and he's not a phenomenal hitter. But tonight he has a really good matchup. He bats .338 against right-handers in terms of WOBA. So I think that his price is still pretty soft around the industry, and I think he's a solid option again tonight. And then if you really, really want to punt second base, I think Jace Peterson is an option for Atlanta. He's batting number 2 tonight. He has the platoon split against Matt Latos. So I would definitely look at Peterson's way as a really, really cheap option to be able to get some of those bigger bats, like an Arizona stack, to get Goldschmidt in there, maybe Trumbo and Zach Greinke, and then throw in Peterson and go from there. From teams to stack tonight, we had a great article that we're throwing out there on numberFire every day with 4 teams to stack that Jim Sonis writes. Like I said, the Brewers and the Rockies are definitely 2 teams to target. And then I think that you have to target another high over-under game, which is the Giants and the Diamondbacks, where you have 2 really, really bad pitchers going at it in a hitter's park. So if you're playing probability, you go with those 2 games. Obviously, anything can happen. But good luck tonight, everyone, and make sure that you check out numberFire.com, check out our projections and everything that we got going on there. Thanks.